The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word in answer to her. Jesus' disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did Jesus homage, saying, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Wow, so Jesus is a real meanie, it seems, in this Gospel, and yet we know that that's not the case. So whenever there's something like this, where it seems to go against who Christ really is, we have to look more deeply into the text to understand what's really going on. Now, first of all, this took place in Tyre and Sidon. So these were Phoenician towns where the paganism of the Phoenicians was still practiced. So this woman would have been a pagan, somebody who probably worshipped the Phoenician gods, who, like the Greeks, had many different gods. And the tradition is for, at that time, the pagans would call the Jews dogs, and the Jews would call the pagans dogs. Now, in our language, we only have one word for dog, so to call anyone a dog is very derogatory. However, in the Greek, and certainly in the original languages they were speaking at the time, like Aramaic, there was more than one version. So what the Jews and the pagans would call each other commonly was sort of the kind of mangy, like junkyard dog, and it was very derogatory. Jesus uses a completely different word in the Greek, and it's the word for a dog that is a part of the family, that is a household pet, beloved by the family around it. So maybe not a member of the family, but one that is loved and cared for within that family. So this was actually something that would have struck her as being loving, something that was actually drawing her in. Because Christ was not yet ready to bring his message to all the Gentiles. Remember, Jesus' initial mission was to preach to the lost sheep of Israel, as he says, the chosen people, the Jews. It wasn't until his ascension that he gave the apostles the mission to go and preach the word to all nations. And thank God he did, because most of us are the descendants of Gentiles. But at this time, it wasn't the moment for that. St. Paul, in fact, is talking about how he's the apostle to the Gentiles. So that day would come, but not yet. So Jesus makes the point that while she's not a member of the chosen people, he cares for her, but it's not right yet to take the message that's for the Jews at this point and give it to those who are not part of that family. And why does he do this? If he knows, ultimately as God, that he's going to do the healing, why take her through these steps? And that's where we see the real mercy and love of Jesus, because she wants something very simple, for her daughter to be cured. But Christ wants so much more for her, and so he takes her on a journey of faith. Initially, she comes, and you can get the idea that perhaps she's already tried all of her gods, for sure. And now this Jewish healer, preacher, maybe Messiah is coming through town. Maybe she'll try him as well. She's desperate as parents of a sick child, or a child in this case that is tormented by a demon, would be. But again, Jesus wants more for her. So when she first comes, she simply says, "Have pity on me, son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus doesn't say anything to her. And the apostles tell her, "This is a bad time. Why don't you go?" But she keeps persisting. She has that perseverance. So then the apostles go to Jesus and say, "Would you just send her away because she's really bothering us? She won't stop." And that causes her that first rebuff by the apostles causes her to go past them and go directly to Jesus and do him homage. So now she's gone from simply making a request to worshiping the Son of God. Then Jesus tells her this bit about the fact that it's not right, since she's not one of the chosen people, it's not right at this time to bring the message to her. But she even persists through that. And that's when she gives her profession of faith. Because by saying that even the pagans receive the scraps from the table, she's professing faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And by extension, she's proclaiming her faith in Jesus Christ. And that's when Jesus has brought her all the way from being a simple petitioner to being one who's proclaiming faith in him as the Son of God. And Jesus almost always does these miracles in a response to faith. And so great was her faith that even though it wasn't the right time or the right place, he gave her what she asked for. So at first, it may seem cruel to make her go through these various steps, but at the end, that's how she brought salvation to her house. And so it is for us. When we have a delay in what we've asked God for, he always wants more for us than the simple things that we ask for, often in our short-sightedness. What we ask for may seem right and just and holy, but perhaps he wants even more for us. We look at the times when Jesus is willing to forego what his mission is and do something extra. And those are times when it's truly going to bring somebody to faith or teach us an important lesson. Think of the wedding feast at Cana. He told Mary that it wasn't time yet for him to be doing miracles, even for the chosen people at that point. But he does it anyway, to show that the requests of his mother are always obeyed. And so to teach us to pray through our Blessed Mother. And so too today he teaches us that perseverance in prayer. That if we persevere and don't lose faith, in spite of the fact that it seems like God's not answering our prayer, we know that there's always an answer. And that answer is often meant to not only meet us at our request, but to take us deeper into love with Christ. Which leads not only to our greater fulfillment and happiness in this life, but most importantly, the time with him in the next. Because if there's one thing we know about God, it's that he's a loving Father, that he wants what's best for us, and that whatever it is that he brings us through, if we remain faithful to the end, he will use every means, even the difficult ones, to bring us closer to him and to bring us to heaven, where he wants us for all eternity. We see that on the cross, that Christ was willing to go through an immense amount of pain, rejection, and shame in order to bring about the greatest good. So today, think about those prayers that maybe you've given up on, or the things that you feel are never going to be answered. And ask our Lord not so much to just grant that favor, but ask him to reveal to you what it is that he wishes for you to do. What is the path that he's leading you down? Because we know it has a happy ending, but we have to persevere until the end.